It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the founder of the BDSC's agency, Brian's Sack Hounds. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good, Brandon. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start your own business representing coaches?
Yeah, it kind of fell into it. I had worked as a college basketball coach, and that had always been my dream for about 10 years. And I transitioned to athletic administration. And during that time, I started advising a lot of my coaching friends on their contracts and handling situations with their administrators and interview prep. And a couple of them said, would you like to be my agent? And I said, absolutely not. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, having been on both sides of the table as a coach and athletic director, I could provide that real value to coaches. And so started my business back in 2013 and really just got started focused on the niche of women's basketball coaches, just because I felt like, one, having been a women's basketball coach for 5 years prior to becoming an athletic director, I knew the industry, but it was also an underrepresented area.
Of course, what was your experience like getting to coach women's basketball and also being an athletic director?
Yeah, I mean, coaching women's basketball was wonderful. I'd got my start coaching men's basketball. Had a privilege to work for Tommy Amaker at Seton Hall, and Lewis Orr, and Fran Dunphy at Penn. And I had never really anticipated jumping into the women's side of the game. But while I was at Penn, the women's coach there, Patrick Knapp, kind of took me under his wing. And uh, I realized that, not every kid on the roster thought they were making it to the pros. It was much more fundamental based. And I really enjoyed the coaching aspect of it. And so after 1 year at Penn, I was fortunate enough to get an assistant job up at Fairleigh Dickinson University up in Teaneck, New Jersey. And so I really enjoyed it. I stayed there for 2 years, then went to Seton Hall for 3 years as an assistant coach. And after 3 years, I was ready to try something new. This was the old Big East, where you were getting beat up by UConn and Notre Dame and Louisville on a daily basis. And so transitioned to athletic administration. And it's given me a really great perspective in the job that I'm in now, because I realize that, the athletic director isn't necessarily always the bad guy. They're just the messenger. And so just being able to handle multiple situations, go through the coaching hiring process, was really valuable to where I am now.
What was that transition like from you from going from being a coach and athletic director to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty smooth. Again, I work, it's my business. And so, instead of all these years of working for someone else, you work for yourself. And that was kind of part of it. I mean, I put in so many hours as a coach and athletic director that, I could work 12 hours or I could work 8 hours, and it didn't really matter. I was still making the same amount of money. Whereas, for me as an agent, the harder I work, and that work ethic continued, but you were incentivized by it. And so I felt a really strong passion for representing coaches. And again, like when I started at school at Seton Hall, I never anticipated being a sports agent. I always wanted to coach college basketball. And it's just funny how life takes these twists and turns, and now I can't see myself doing anything different.
Of course, what was that process like for you to become a sports agent to represent these coaches?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a process. It was just, again, me putting myself back into my coaching shoes and realizing what would I want from an agent if I was coaching and hired an agent. And so, it was kind of trial by error. But, what it also did was it helped me really relate with coaches and athletic directors, because at the end of the day, I didn't learn how to be a sports agent by watching Jerry Maguire and thinking that that's how you got to act. It was just being myself and putting myself in my coaching and AD shoes in terms of the relationships that are developed and the processes that go into it.
Of course, after creating the BDS agency, what was that experience like getting your first client to represent?
Yeah, I mean, that was for me, I don't want to say easy, but again, like I said, when I got started, I had coaches, who were already asking me to be their agent. But yeah, once you start signing clients, it's like, all right, well, this is real. Like this is, something that you have to start, putting your efforts into helping them maximize their careers. It's not something you can take lightly. And so, uh, I think maybe the first year I'd signed 10 clients, and 5 of them became Division I head coaches the first off season I worked with them. And so luckily we were able to have some success where I saw, all right, this is going places. And so I was able to kind of take that leap of faith and go out on my own.
Of course, what services do you offer to these collegiate coaches?
Yeah, I do. Excuse me. Everything from uh, marketing them to professional development, to interview prep, to contract negotiations, to career development. Anything that kind of works within a coach's career, we're able to kind of help them with.
Of course, how is that process like getting to market these coaches to the world?
Excuse me. Um, yeah, it's, again, everything is so focused on digital, these days. And so just being able to do something different with our clients that helps them stand out, whether it's, promoting them via social media, promoting them via our website, promoting them via newsletters that go out to athletic administrators, different things like that are just, really important. Just again, making sure that people know who they are or aware of them. And if not aware of them, aware of me and my agency. That way, when they are going through the process of hiring a women's or men's basketball coach, and it might be someone I don't know, they can instantly think of me and reach out.
Of course, what is that process of like helping those coaches get on to different interviews, whether it's podcasts or national media?
Yeah, it's, a lot of that work though is done through their sports information directors. A lot of that is kind of coordinated by their university. There are times where I'll have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, would love to get them on my podcast," and I'll communicate directly with the client and just say, hey, do you want to schedule something, or do you want them to reach out to your SID? So a lot of that work is done through their sports information department. But yeah, there are times where, we develop relationships with some of the positive or really larger podcasts that are out there to be able to kind of put our clients in front of them.
Of course, how is that experience like getting to work with those SIDs to give your clients those opportunities interviews?
Sure. They're incredible. The SIDs are, they work so hard to really just be able to take ownership of the sport that they're working with. And so, for me, I never want to overstep my bounds. I understand that they have a job to do, and we can work in conjunction with, each other to really help promote the program, promote the coach. And, there are times where I do communicate with them and say, hey, can you send me this video? Can you send me some pictures, or can you update this bio? And again, I'm never trying to overstep my bounds. I understand they have a job to do, but, I think we can kind of help each other out.
Of course, what does that process look like for you when negotiating contracts with your clients and the athletic directors?
Yeah, it's every school is different, every contract's different, every athletic director is different. And so it just starts with trying to understand what's important to my client, what's fair based on comps in terms of conference and national landscape, and then being able to put those things together to really work out maximizing the terms of the contract in terms of financially and protection wise. And so you can't go in there and sometimes get every single thing you want, but that's where you got to understand what's the most important and what's going to be able to help them most long term in their role. And I've really developed great relationships with the administrators and search firms that we've worked with, and have a lot of respect for them and the job that they have to do. And I understand they have to do what's best for them and their department, and I never take it personal. But it's important that we always be able to see each other's side, whether it's to be able to get to the point that we want to in this negotiation or for future negotiations.
Who are some of the notable people that you've represented?
So some of the Power 5 coaches that we represent, we'll just say Amy Williams at Nebraska, Dawn Plitzwhite at Minnesota, JC Hoyt at Oklahoma State, Jose Fernandez at the University of South Florida, are just a couple of ours on the women's side. On the men's side, represent Chris Markwood up at Maine and Eric Peterson at South Dakota. So pretty wide variety of coaches at all levels of Division I.
Of course, what does that process look like for you when out recruiting other clients to join your agency?
Yeah, there was much more recruiting that went on in the beginning than it does now. Now, I really like the clients that I'm working with. I really like where we are as an agency. And so for me, it's not necessarily about spending much time putting into recruiting new clients. It's about trying to help the clients that we have as much as possible. And so, in the beginning though, yeah, it's about obviously showing them that there's value in me helping them and being able to be a resource to them that could be beneficial to them in their career, and be able to help protect them and maximize, the financial aspects of their contract and opportunities that are ahead of them. And so there has to be that trust. If there's not trust, whether they, it's them trusting me, but it's also me trusting them. And so it kind of goes both ways. There's times where, there's coaches that I think I want to work with, and then you start talking to them and it's the trust just isn't there. And I'm not willing to take that chance, especially when I work for myself. And so that trust is incredibly important as you get to know each other in that process. But a lot of my, stuff comes from referrals now. A lot of it comes from clients I work with and have done well by and done right by, who, tell their friends, hey, if you need someone, call Brian.
Of course, what does a typical day in the life look like for you?
Every day is completely different. It could be, and it depends on the time of year. During the season, it's watching clients' games, traveling to clients' games, checking in on them if they're, maybe struggling a little bit. It's, being able to start anticipating what could be open during the off season. It's communicating with athletic directors, administrators, search firms, clients about openings or staff positions they might have available on their staff. And then now this time of year, a lot of it is finishing up contracts that we have that are outstanding. And I also run a conference each year called Head Coach Training Center for aspiring head coaches, current and aspiring head coaches. And so now I kind of start prepping, to be able to get a venue set for the following year. And so a lot of it is just being able to kind of prepare as much as possible for that. So I'm not worrying about it too much during the busy time of, the November through really May.
Of course, what is that head coach training center like?
Yeah, so Head Coach Training Center, I started back in 2016 because I felt like there were a lot of coaches who were losing jobs, not because they were bad X's and O's coaches, but they were bad managers of their programs. They weren't prepared for it. Doesn't mean they were bad people. They just weren't prepared for it. And so what I wanted to do was put together a unique conference that focused exclusively on off the court development for coaches. And what this does is it teaches coaches strategies to not just obtain a head coach position and be able to excel in that process, whether it's a first time or new Division I or collegiate position. It's also how you can thrive as a head coach when you finally get into that position. And so we involve head coaches, athletic administrators, athletic directors, search firm executives, industry professionals that come and speak and be able to interact with our coaches to be able to teach them, the best strategies to be successful.
Of course, do you only represent head coaches or do you also represent assistant coaches too?
No, we represent assistant coaches and head coaches at the non-Division I level. A lot of our assistant coaches aspire to be head coaches. And so working with them to put them in a position to one day become a first-time Division I head coach. And that's so meaningful. Just this offseason, there's some coaches I've worked with for a long time who, got great opportunities. Someone like Erica Lambert, who's now the head coach at the University of North Florida. I mean, I've worked with Erica for years and she's had numerous opportunities, but just hasn't had that right fit. To be there on that special day when she finally gets the opportunity that's a fit for her and her family. I mean, it's so meaningful.
Of course, what is that feeling like for you to get to be there when they get announced at the press conference to become a new head coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's emotional, it really is because how hard I put myself back in their shoes. I know how hard they work and the sacrifices they make because I did that myself. I know how hard it is to get these opportunities and how things need to be played perfectly throughout the search process. And to be a small part in helping them achieve their dream it's incredible. I've worked with clients for years who have gotten that opportunity. I mean, I've worked with clients who I coached in college as a coach who are now coaches and done well. And one of them, Gail Coates, she's the head coach up at Davidson College down your way in North Carolina. I mean, she played for me at Fairleigh Dickinson. And so like to just see her from, being a player of mine to, getting an assistant job and being a part of helping her become a head coach and then continue to thrive in the role she's in there's no words.
Of course, as an agent, what is that feeling like getting to see them get that first win as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, because again, like, you play a small part in it. They're doing all the hard work. And so just, it's the same thing, like getting a job, getting the first win, going to the first NCAA tournament, you always remember the first. And so just being able to see that is just, it's kind of just piles on that, as I say, the icing on top of the cake with each accomplishment they make.
What are some of the things that you learn now that you didn't know before getting started?
Um, yeah, that's a great question, man. I think just the importance of, and I've always been really good with networking. I've always been great with relationship building, but I think like you can't think short term in terms of relationships. They're like, and with these relationships that you develop, it might be years before something pans out where there's something mutually beneficial for each side, but just being patient with it. And just understanding that there's sometimes isn't need for instant gratification, that stuff can take time.
What are some of your future plans for your business moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think continue to grow. We're in a great spot where we represent great coaches, so continue to help them move up the ranks, but also, you know, continue to add some great clients, especially on the men's side where we're growing, and some head coaches on that side, in addition to the few that we currently represent. And then, one thing that we are kind of venturing into is representation of athletic administrators. And so, we're kind of just in the beginning phases of it and haven't really launched it yet, but we're gonna get there.
Of course, what advice would you give those people that are looking to start their own business and represent coaches?
Yeah, just find your unique intrinsic value and focus on a specific niche. Just finding something that you can bring to the table that's much different than what other people are offering is very important. And then focus on a niche. For me, I got my start representing women's basketball coaches. I didn't focus on, going to represent volleyball coaches and men's basketball and then football. It was all focused on one niche, and that's how I was able to kind of really grow. But the relationships that I developed focusing on that niche are now beneficial when it comes to representing coaches in other sports. And so I think just finding your unique value that you bring to the table, but also finding that niche that you can really focus and take grasp of.
Of course, what advice would you give those coaches that are looking for sports agents like yourself to represent them?
Yeah, I think just reaching out, and just your first question shouldn't be, what are your fees? I get those all the time. And it's like, if that's the most important question, then it's probably not a fit for me. I think just understand that it's a relationship business for us too. Yeah, I mean, there are some agents out there that they'll, sign any and all coaches that come their way, but for the good ones, it's about relationships. And so for me, I'm not just going to sign someone after one conversation. It's going to be multiple conversations. And so just understand that, reach out, be proactive, stay in touch, and build those relationships in the off season. Don't only reach out when the job market starts heating up in February and March, because at that point, most agents are already busy and focused on the clients that they have. The relationships that have to be developed in the months of, May through February at that point.
Of course, where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Yeah, so pretty much all of my names, like on Instagram and Twitter, are at BDStan, STAN, or at the BDS agency. So you can find me there, website, bdsagency.com, or headcoachtc.com. Those are the two websites we got.
Thank you again, Brian Stanchak, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the BDS agency.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you, man.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Brian, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.